Hello and welcome to the next chapter in this ongoing series of tutorials that will help familiarize you and improve your skills in Correll PaintShop Photo Pro X3. This is Robert Correll. In today's short lesson, I'm going to show you how to work with pesky shadows that are created by Flash in interior photography. I'm going to start on the desktop for this lesson to show you how to open Correll PaintShop Photo Pro X3 and how the program goes into the organizer, which is different than prior versions. Here you can see the organizer, which is the full screen interface now with collections of folders on the left, organizer info on the right, and a thumbnail preview area down the bottom. The main part of the window is the large preview window where photos will appear. First, click Browse More Folders to add folders to this list, and I have a folder called Working, which has 4 subfolders with photos. With that done, those photos are now loaded into the organizer in PaintShop Photo Pro. To get at the photos, you can select them and they show up in the preview window, and then you can also select Full Editor, which will open them in the editor that you're used to working in. Now for this lesson, I'm going to show you how to work to remove some of these shadows created by harsh flash in an indoor photo. And this is my son Jake sitting on a blue chair, and you can see the photo itself looks really good. He looks sharp and clear, very well lit, by the flash, and good photo. The chair looks nice and bright, and you can see the background. But the shadow right around his ear, dropping down then on his neck, is really sort of distracting. That's one of the problems I always find in indoor flash photography, and that is the shadows that get created. And how do you remove these? There are many different techniques to removing shadows and lightening dark things, and many of which are not going to work very well. For example, let's look at the dodge brush over here. I'm going to reduce the size, and we could try to lighten that shadow with the dodge brush and see how that works. That doesn't look too good. Changes it from black to sort of a ugly gray. I can undo that, switch to lighten darken, try that. That doesn't look too good either. Use the adjust menu, brightness, contrast, look at highlight, midtone, and shadow. So let's raise the shadow up here all the way to 100, and that doesn't give us a very good look either, which is the tail of a lot of photo restoration and retouching. The tail is going through different techniques which should work that don't, and weeding out the ones that don't and finding the one that does. In this case, the one that is really going to be effective is using the clone brush to just remove that shadow and replace it with the texture of the couch. So select the clone brush, change the size and the hardness to appropriate levels for the area that you're cloning away. And in this case, I'm going to make that a little bit smaller and not too hard. Right click to get a source area and then start cloning away. Now, this couch area, you can see, is very well defined in terms of the lines and different colored thread. So if you're not careful, it'll be obvious that you cloned there. Zooming out, it doesn't look too bad, but there are really spots there where you can tell that I'm off the pattern. So in this particular, that's a chair actually, in this particular chair, what I can do is try to find where this pattern repeats, right click to select my source there, and then come over here, try to start that cloning operation right in with the pattern, and then go from there. That looks better. Work carefully. What I like to do is use a larger brush first and get close to the borders, and that's where the softness plays an important role. I don't want the edge here too harsh, otherwise it's going to be obvious that I've cloned. Now areas in the corners here are always going to be problematic. You need to really reduce the size of that brush now, try to get in there, keep it from being too obvious or hard. Sometimes you might even need to actually go into the subject so that it looks better. Maybe not too much on that ear there, but it might take a lot of patience as you work this area to get that completely cloned away. Now, see, that's not too bad, but more work could be done. So I would continue doing that to refine it and totally perfect it. And after the left side, I would then come over to the right side. Again, pick a pattern area that's not going to be so obvious and start cloning here too. Okay, it's important to try to get the same lightness and texture as you clone this material. For example, we'll just undo all of that. For example, this blue chair, the material up here at the top is not the same light as it is down here. You always want to try to take source material from pretty close to the destination so that it's the same lighting, the same tone, and the same texture. Now, how's that going to work down here around his neck and chin? The answer is not too well. In this case, you can clone, but it's not going to look very natural because the skin is changing tone dramatically from down by his shirt up to, or excuse me, the neck. The tone of his neck changes dramatically from around the shirt to where his chin is and cheeks. And it's really hard to get a natural clone there, just no matter how hard you work at it, because this material here and this material here, although they don't look very different, can be. I've rarely found myself getting a good effect there. So what I do sometimes is resort to another technique, which is then duplicating this layer and using technique I showed in a different video. Duplicate the layer, adjust the color for the channel mixer to a grayscale for this layer, invert it by choosing image, negative image, so this layer is inverted, blur it just a little bit, change the blend mode to overlay, and then what I'll do for this particular application is mask out just about everything. Layers, new mask layer, show selection. Now I need to blend this mask, select none first of all, select my eraser to paint on black, which is the color of masking, and so I use my eraser to then mask out areas of the shirt and his face that I don't want changed. And I'm working pretty quickly here. So in the end, you can see how that's minimizing the effect of that black shadow. It's just reducing its power a little bit. Now I continue to refine the edge here of this mask so that I don't include a lot of his face that I don't want the tone changing. Blend that in better with a soft edge. And you could even actually erase part of where his neck looks okay to keep that tone a little natural, or you could leave that so the difference, the gradient there between what's light and what's dark is not as steep as it was. So that reduces the effect of that. All right, so a combination of cloning here and then this technique where you invert the layer, turn it to grayscale, change the blend mode, all help to reduce the impact of these flash shadows, which were cast by the flash then either on the subject and on the chair.